Welcome to the WalterFootball.com podcast. This is episode 282. We're talking about the 2020 NFL win totals, where Jacob and I are going to talk about which teams we like the most for the over and under win totals. Joined by Jacob Camenker, the owner of the most accurate 2020 NFL mock draft. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk about win totals. This is the time of year where I start to really formulate what I think is going to happen during the season. And most of the time I'm somewhat right. Last year I was horribly wrong on almost everything. So looking forward to having a chance to redeem myself after my Falcons, Steelers, Super Bowl, and Vic Fangio Coach of the Year picks fell through.
Nice. Yeah, I had a winning record last year. Mostly, it would have been a lot better if the Dolphins under 5 came through, and it looked like that was going to hit for a while. And then they ended up beating the Patriots in Week 17, and that ended up being a push. But overall, it was a good year last year. It could have been great if the Dolphins just cooperated and lost like they were planning to do. So yeah, I don't know how you feel overall, but there are like 2 or 3 I love, and then like 2 to 4 that I like. So how do you feel about this slate?
Yeah, I think I'm probably in the same boat as you. I think there's like 2 or 3 that I really, really like and think we can take advantage of. There are some that I like a lot, but the juice isn't very good on them. So it's kind of like, they're not bad picks by any means, but you have to pay a lot to get a lot. And then there are some that I kind of like, but I think generally I like a lot on this slate. But there are a lot that I've like really tossed up on too, or don't want to bet because of the juice.
Yeah, you mentioned the juice. That's one thing I should mention before we begin. Something that you can do if you have the luxury of doing so is shopping around to get a better price on the juice. You can look at one sports book and then you can look at a few others, and you can get better juice, especially if you have access to Vegas. Like if you go out to Vegas in the summer, there's so many sports books out there that you can get a good price on what you want. Like, so you probably don't have to pay a lot of juice if you like a certain team. So our plan today is to go division by division. I'm going to list all the win totals, and we'll discuss which ones I like. If we don't mention a team or if we gloss over them, we just don't like the win total, which probably means that we think that the win total that is set right now is pretty accurate. So you don't have to bet everything. So I would recommend, really focusing in on 2 to 5 of these that you really like, and then betting them and then shopping around for the best number. Before we begin, I should mention, please hit subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. That'd help us out a lot. Or just share this link to someone who likes football and may not know about it. That would be great. All right, let's begin with the NFC East. The Cowboys are 9.5, the Giants are 6, Eagles 9.5, and the Redskins are 5. So what does anything stick out there?
Yeah, I think the one that sticks out the most is the Giants. It just seems like that number's too low for them. They play in a weak division. I'm not a huge fan of either the Cowboys or the Eagles numbers. I think those teams can kind of go either way depending on injuries. But I think the Giants have like a legitimate chance to potentially compete for a wild card, or at least be a solid to average team. So that number of 6 is, I think, low. They've added a ton of talent on both sides of the ball. On defense, they've added James Bradbury, Blake Martinez, Kyler Fackrell, and Xavier McKinney. And they also figured to retain Marcus Golden. They put a weird tender on them that I haven't seen used since LeGarrette Blount got it from the Patriots. So we have to wait like a month or so, I think, before he's officially back with the team. But no one's going to sign him because it would affect the comp picks formula. But anyway, they have talent. They have a new coaching staff that'll bring some discipline. I don't love Jason Garrett being the offensive coordinator, but I think Joe Judge will build a program the right way. The big question is, will Daniel Jones take the next step? He has all the weapons he needs around him. Saquon Barkley is there. They fixed the problem they have at right tackle by drafting Andrew Thomas and Matt Peart. Those two should help upgrade the tackle situation. Thomas will start on the right side and eventually kick over to left when Nate Solder's done. And so if Daniel Jones can make the leap, avoid turnovers, the Giants should challenge for a playoff spot. 7 wins seems doable, and they have not a great schedule, but they're playing the NFC East, which again is a somewhat weak division. They could start off the season with a couple wins. They're playing at home against Pittsburgh in a game that could be sneaky win for them. And then they travel to Chicago to take on the Bears. So I don't think it's a guarantee, but at over 6, I think the number on Bovada I have for over 6.5 is plus 115. So we're getting good value there, I think. If you're afraid of or want the push option on 6, you can get it at a different price elsewhere. But I just think the Giants are going to be better than people expect.
Yeah, the over 6 is minus 120 at Bookmaker, so I would definitely go that route. If you're comparing to 6.5, I think that 6 minus 120 is a better number. I love the Giants; they're one of my favorite picks. I think there's a good chance that they win the division. So I think it's the 3-horse race between the Eagles and Cowboys. There's a great history with second-year quarterbacks doing very well. If you look at Russell Wilson, the Seahawks won the Super Bowl. The Rams, they went to the playoffs. They won the division with Jared Goff. The Eagles with Carson Wentz, they won the Super Bowl. The Bears with Mitch Trubisky, even though Trubisky's not a good quarterback, they won their division. I can go on and on. These teams with these young quarterbacks have such a big advantage because they can stack the roster. And the Giants did that. They signed James Bradbury to improve their secondary. They drafted Andrew Thomas to improve their offensive line. Saquon Barkley was not healthy last year. He got hurt in week 3. Came back, I think, in week 6 or week 7, but he wasn't himself until that timetable expired, the original 8-week timetable. And then when that hit, he was great down the stretch. So I think that the Giants are one of the better teams in the NFC, and 6 is just laughably low. I think that they could potentially even double that number. I think 11-5 is very reasonable. 10-6, I think, is probably the most likely result for them this year. So I love the Giants. The other teams, nothing stands out. If I had to take another one, I would say Redskins under 5. But I think 5-11 is pretty likely for them.
Yeah, I would say 5-11 is likely for them. Bovada has 5.5 under for them at minus 115, so you could pay for that if you wanted to. The only thing I look at with the Redskins that may make me doubt them in terms of going under would be they have a 3-week stretch post bye where they take on the Giants at home, the Lions on the road, and then the Bengals. If they are well prepared coming out of the bye, which they could be with Rivera, they could string together a few wins there. So that's the number one reason I probably wouldn't bet the Redskins. But you could convince me to take them. The Cowboys and the Eagles, there's just way too many variables there for me to consider them. I think they're like perfectly pegged at that 9-7, 10-6 range.
Yeah, I have a feeling one of them goes 10-6, the other goes 9-7. So I think that's pretty accurate. All right, next division: Bears are 8, Lions 6.5, Packers are 9, and Vikings are 9. So do you like anything here?
I do. I will say that the Packers and the Vikings are two teams, again, much like the Cowboys and Eagles. I think those numbers are about right. And I think that one of those two teams will go the 10-6. One will go 9-7. We may see an 11-5 from one of them, but I can't tell which one. I am a fan of the Bears on under. I feel like that number is way off. I mean, I do not see an 8-win team when I look at them. They've only gotten worse. They have 9 tight ends still on their roster, which is just insane to me. That's just irresponsible roster building. I don't care if it's the offseason. Like 10% of your team is tight ends right now. Like, get a grip, Ryan Pace. But I mean, they're going to get Akeem Hicks back healthy, but they're still missing stuff on defense. They don't have a great partner for Khalil Mack. Robert Quinn was signed, but is he a good scheme fit? I don't know. They lost Clinton Dix after losing Adrian Amos last year, so they're down a partner for Eddie Jackson, and they don't have a true number 2 corner. So their defense is much weaker. We know the problems with their offense. It's Mitch Trubisky. So I would not trust him this year. Nick Foles might be better than him, but he has also struggled at times outside of Philadelphia and couldn't stay healthy last year. I think if Foles stays healthy, maybe the Bears will be better, but I still don't see an 8-win team no matter how you slice this up unless Matt Nagy works some absolute magic. So I think I will be betting on the under 8 there. That so long as the juice isn't too bad, because I know the juice on Bovada is at 8.5 was like minus 190. So I'll probably have to check out Bookmaker if I want to bet that one.
Bookmaker, I'm looking right now. The under 8 is minus 120. So that's I think that's a great number. I'm right there with you with the Bears under 8. I think this might be my number 1 pick of the entire 2020 NFL offseason. So The offense, yeah, I mean, Trubisky was a major problem last year, but he wasn't the only problem offensively. Their offensive line was horrible. Their left and right tackles were just Charles Leno, Bobby Massey. They took a big step backward, and their right guard, Kyle Long, retired, or their guard, Kyle Long, retired. So that made the offensive line worse, and they never really replaced Kyle Long. So I don't know how they're going to block. I was watching recently the Bears Chargers game from last year. It was week 8. Just doing research for this season. Like I rewatch every season going into the next one. And that was one of the first games they lost Kyle Long, and the Bears offense was just so dysfunctional in that game. They couldn't block at all. And yeah, they were playing the Chargers. The Chargers are missing their top 2 defensive tackles in that game. They still had Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram. But still, like, the Chargers just overwhelmed the offensive line in that game, and Trubisky couldn't do anything, and he made lots of mistakes. And yeah, Foles is going to be better than Trubisky, but still, it's still going to be the same issue. The Bears never fixed their problems. Instead, they went after 9 tight ends. Like, maybe they run at 9 tight end formations this year. Like, that would be fun to watch. It won't work though. So I think that the Bears, for them to lose this pick, they're going to have to go 9-7. And I think they're one of the worst teams in the NFL. Like, yeah, they have Khalil Mack, they have Akeem Hicks, they have a couple of other good players in defense, but their defense, like you said, is not as dominant as it was 2 years ago. And they even lost Bryce Callahan, their slot corner, last offseason, and they never replaced them. So, yeah, I definitely think I think the Bears are one of the worst teams, and this under 8 seems great. I kind of like the Packers under 9 as well. The Packers last year, they went 13-3. They went to the NFC Championship, but they won so many close games last year. They got so lucky in many instances, and they lost Brian Bulaga. They kind of really didn't replace him. You know, Ricky Wagner's there, but I don't think he's going to be that good. Aaron Rodgers is a year older. Rodgers stayed healthy last year, which is kind of a rarity. I don't see that happening too often. He's a year older. Obviously, he's going to decline. This Packers team, plus there's some dysfunction with them drafting Jordan Love. I just have some bad vibes from this Packers team. It wouldn't surprise me to go 8-8 or something like that. So I like the under, but I love the Bears under as well.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with you on the Packers for one reason. Everything that you said makes sense, but I'm just going to rely on the gut theory that I've been going with, and that Aaron Rodgers is going to be so pissed off by the Jordan Love pick that he's going to have like an MVP caliber year. And I actually think I may have bet on him to win MVP like a couple of weeks ago because of the Packers picking Jordan Love, and just the supporting cast around Rodgers is bad. So if he has an unbelievable year, he could win the MVP. But definitely there are concerns with the Packers. They did not get better. And like you said, they got lucky last year. But, if Rodgers gets pissed, it has a resurgence, kind of like what we've seen Tom Brady do a couple different times when people have been like, oh, he's done, and they have his successor, and then he comes out and balls out. So I think Rodgers might have that in him, but I'll have to assess that closer to the season before I make a definitive choice there.
It is terrifying to go against Rodgers, and that's why I don't love this. Like, I would bet a little bit on the under. I definitely get what you're saying, but like, to counter that, like, first is what I mentioned before. Rodgers rarely stays healthy for the entire year. It was like I said, it was a rarity that he did that last year. So I don't know if he can do it again. And second, and you mentioned this, his team sucks. He has one great receiver in Devontae Adams. They didn't really find a tight end. I know they have Jay Sternberger. We'll see what happens with him. Bulaga being gone is a big deal. And that run defense is just abysmal. And they just got trampled over by the 49ers in the NFC Championship. Then they never found anyone to help. So I just think this Packers team sucks. And yeah, Rodgers could have a legendary year and lead this team to a 11-5 record or something like that. You could be right, but I think we've seen him get hurt more often than not, and I think that might happen again, sadly.
Yeah, no, I definitely could see that happening.
Yeah. All right. Next division, the NFC South. Falcons are at 7.5. The Panthers at 5.5. The Saints at 10.5, and the Buccaneers at 9.5. So, what do you like here?
I like the Bucs over. I wrote in my notes that I'm not going to waste too much time on this one, but this is the main point here. Jameis Winston threw 30 interceptions last year, and they replaced him with Tom Brady while also upgrading some other spots and not losing a ton of talent. Even if you don't think Brady's as good outside of New England, or, if you think that he might regress because he's getting older, he's not going to turn the ball over. And that was one of the biggest problems for the Bucs last year, and yet they still, I think, went 7-9. So they were a pretty good team. They have a dynamic offense. Their defense is up and coming. So I like them for the over. I kind of think the Panthers, I also think that they're going to be an under 5.5 team. I don't know if I'd bet on it necessarily, but if you look at all the factors, they have a coaching staff that has very little NFL experience. They have a ton of upside guys on that staff. Like Matt Rule seems like a great motivator. Joe Brady worked wonders with Joe Burrow in college last year. And I think Phil Snow's their defensive coordinator, and he did a good job at Baylor. But again, this is the NFL. We don't know how that's going to work. We don't know exactly how the Panthers are going to adjust to life post Ron Rivera, Cam Newton, and Luke Kuechly. Those were like their 3 leaders for the past decade, and they're all gone. So, I've convinced myself in doing this argument that I probably will bet on the Panthers under 5.5 there because they have kind of a tough schedule too. And I just think they're going to be lacking leadership and kind of trying to find that direction under Matt Rule his first year. I don't think it's going to be like a disaster, but I just don't think that they're going to be super competitive.
We agree completely on this division. I like the Panthers under 5.5. It's a low number, so that's why I don't love it. I could see Bridgewater getting them to 6 wins or something like that. It's not like a lock or anything. But the Buccaneers over 9.5. That number seems so low to me. This team was good last year. And you said the Winston 30 interceptions. I don't know if you heard Kenny's recent podcast or episode with me where he was talking about the should have been interceptions with Winston. He said through 6 weeks, Winston had 6 should have been interceptions. So he could have had 36. And, and I'm sure it could have been 40. I'm looking forward to Kenny's final tally there. But the Buccaneers are, I think, one of the best teams in the NFL. And it wouldn't surprise me if they go 12-4, 13-3, maybe even 14-2. I think this team is absolutely loaded. And it's not just Tom Brady, who's obviously a huge upgrade. He's going to be much more cautious with the ball. The Buccaneers are not going to be playing from behind. The Buccaneers offensive line did very well at the end of last year, and they added Tristan Wirfs. Obviously, the receiving core is great. But really, and also their defensive line. Their defensive line is amazing. In the second half of the year, they got Jason Pierre-Paul back from injury, and their defense in the second half of the year, partly because of that, was so much better in the first half. I think people kind of missed that. Another reason why their defense improved so much last year in the second half is because they finally figured out the cornerback situation. Jamel Dean stepped in. He was a rookie last year. He really struggled in his first game against Seattle, but after that, he played so well across from Carlton Davis. And so the Buccaneers actually, for the first time in a long time, they have 2 very good corners, and their safeties are going to be a lot better because Justin Evans was out last year. He's going to be back. That's a big upgrade. And they drafted Antoine Winfield Jr. in the second round. So suddenly their second round is going to be the secondary is going to be very good, I think. And, it's going to be complemented by a good defensive line. And then you have Brady. And I think the Buccaneers could easily win the Super Bowl this year. Maybe not easily. It's not easy to win Super Bowl, but they're going to be one of the teams in contention. And I think the over 9.5 is going to be clinched pretty easily.
Yeah, my 56-1 Super Bowl bet on the Bucs is very happy that you think they're going to be that good. And, I think the biggest point on the Bucs that people are overlooking, like you mentioned, is that their defense is so much better. We're used to seeing their defense over the course of the past couple seasons before last year get shredded on a pretty regular basis. But as last year went along, their young talent stepped up. They got a ton from Shaq Barrett, way more than people were expecting when they signed him as a free agent. I liked him, but I didn't think he'd lead the NFL in sacks, and lo and behold, he did. And they've just added so much talent just overall. And I love the pick of Antoine Winfield, too, because it gives them a true ball hawk back there that can grow with that young secondary. And even the 2 Auburn cornerbacks you mentioned are up and coming, and they still have last year's second-round pick, Sean Murphy-Bunting, back there in the secondary. So if he makes the leap, they could be in good shape. And they got Parnell Motley, a guy who I like because he's a try-hard player as an undrafted free agent. So I just think everything's coming up roses for the Bucs. And Bruce Arians is a really good head coach. Todd Bowles, great defensive coordinator. They really could string it all together. And just one word of wisdom on Atlanta. Their schedule is not terrible to start the year, but after their week 10 bye, they play the Saints twice, the Bucks twice, the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Raiders. So, like, I'm just mentioning them. I don't love them at under 7.5, but if they struggle out of the gate, which they did last year with Dan Quinn, they're not going to win the over. So I'd consider betting the Atlanta under 7.5, but I would not at all consider the over. If you're thinking betting over on the Falcons, don't do it. As someone who did that last year and paid through the nose for it.
Yeah, if the Buccaneers didn't get Tom Brady, I think you could probably go Atlanta over. But Atlanta suddenly has to play Tom Brady twice and Drew Brees twice, and that's pretty rough. So Andrew is commenting here that he thinks Brady's too old for the Buccaneers to hit this over. I mean, Brady still played well last year. He didn't have his best year, but he didn't have receivers who got open. So he's going to have that now with Chris Godwin and Mike Evans for sure. So Brady's going to be better. And just ask yourself this, like, do you think this year's Brady is going to be better than the 2015 Peyton Manning, who couldn't really complete any downfield passes? Yeah, I think so. And Peyton Manning won the Super Bowl. You're not even asking Brady to win the Super Bowl with this bet. You're asking him to go 10-6. And I definitely think he can do that. And then Trackstar is asking if this is Walter. Yeah, this I am. Yeah, thanks for following since 2008. That's awesome. That was the first full year I did this full time. So that's awesome. You've been following for so long. All right. Cardinals, NFC West. Cardinals are 7, Rams 8.5, 49ers 10.5, and Seahawks 9.5. So who do you like here?
I'm sorry, can you read those again? You randomly cut out for me, and I don't know why.
Okay, Cardinals are 7, Rams 8.5, 49ers 10.5, and Seahawks 9.5.
Okay, you came through that time. Okay, yeah, so there are a couple I like here. I love the Arizona over. Very much the same reason that we talked about liking the Giants. That second-year leap from Kyler Murray is probably going to happen. He got DeAndre Hopkins and has a ton of receiving weapons now between him, Larry Fitzgerald, Christian Kirk, and UMass alum Andy Isabella, who I may or may not have had class with. I can't remember. I don't think I did, actually. I had it with the quarterback. But anyway, I'm just bragging now. But I think the Cardinals are going to be very competitive. They were last year. I think they were like 9-7-2 against the spread. Or maybe 9-5-2 would be the correct numbers there. And were one of the best against the spread last year, which indicates that they were in games that they weren't always expected to be in. I just think they're going to be very competitive. I think that they may overtake the Rams in this division. They're going to have trouble keeping pace with the Niners and the Seahawks, but they had the Niners number last year a couple times and almost were able to beat them with a rookie quarterback. So I think they could beat the Niners once. And I think their schedule is favorable enough that they can beat some of the other teams they have to take on. So I like the Cardinals over a lot. I also like the 49ers under a bit. I know that they're still the favorite in this division, but I just think they might have a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover. I was not on them last year. I called them the most average team in the league, and they definitely surprised me. But I'm wondering if they might have a Rams type situation where they kind of went all the way to the Super Bowl, then lost, and then might come back a little flat. And I like their coaching and I like their talent, and I think that they've done some nice things. But they've lost DeForest Buckner, replaced him with Javon Kinlaw, which could pan out. But I'm just curious to see how they respond, and I'm not sure it's a given that they win 11 games in what looks like a very tough division. So. Especially where the Cardinals play well against them. The Seahawks have given them a run for their money a ton. And, if the Rams aren't great anymore, but they could definitely still give them some trouble.
Yeah, so you mentioned the Cardinals first. I think you like them more than I do, but I do like the over. I'm not in love with it. The two reasons why I don't love it. One is because, as you mentioned, the NFC West is very difficult. It's going to be tough to get wins in the division. And two, I don't trust the tackles to stay healthy. DJ Humphries and Marcus Gilbert, they have a long history of injury. So if they both go down, Arizona is not going to be as good as they could be. That's the one concern. And they drafted Josh Jones in the 3rd round, and I thought that was great value, but I don't think Jones is ready to play right away. I think he needs to get stronger, and maybe in 2021 he could take over as a starter. But I don't think he's ready to play right now, especially if he has to go against Nick Bosa or Jadeveon Clowney for returns to Seattle. It's going to be tough. So those are the two reasons I don't love Arizona, but I do like them. My top play in this division is the Rams under 8.5. The Rams, we're talking about offensive line. The Rams had one of the worst offensive lines last year. And I really thought entering this offseason that they would improve it, because what the primary reason why they took a big step in Jared Goff's second year and third year is because of their offensive line play. It was amazing. Like, they had a great offensive line. But going into last offseason, they lost Roger Saffold, and they lost their center, and they never replaced them. And they have a bunch of young guys, but all of them looked bad last year, except for maybe David Edwards. He's okay. But their line overall was just not good, and they still have the same problem. And it's just going to be tough for them to compete and be consistent that way. And then I'm just not a big fan of Jared Goff. They also lost Wade Phillips, who's, I think he's worth a win or two, right? And they lost Corey Littleton, who's kind of emerged as one of the better young linebackers in the NFL. And also they lost Dante Fowler. So they have a lot of holes suddenly. I think worse coaching, still bad offensive line. I don't trust Goff. Todd Gurley's gone. Gurley obviously wasn't quite himself last year, but he still might be better than what they have now, running wise. We'll see what Cam Akers could do. But yeah, overall, I don't like this Rams team. And plus, again, they play in a tough division. So I think it's going to be tough for them to get 9 wins or more.
Yeah, actually, now that you mention it, I'll probably be all over the Rams under more so than I am the 49ers under. So I think it's just a great argument that you make. And also, like, I look at the backup quarterback situation sometimes too, especially if a team has a bad offensive line, means quarterback's going to get hit if they're not mobile. So Jared Goff's backup right now is either going to be John Walford, Bryce Perkins, or Josh Love. 2 of those guys are undrafted free agents, and the other, I think, played in the AAF. So not ideal. So there's a lot not to like about that Rams team, especially, and the loss of Wade Phillips is huge too, because he really made that defense work.
Yeah, not even that backup quarterback didn't even make the XFL. He was in the AAF. It's pretty bad. Andrew's talking about the Seahawks. He thinks the Seahawks go under. He says Russell Wilson can't keep doing this forever. I would not bet against Russell Wilson. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, he'll get injured at some point, I imagine. He hasn't missed the start yet, but I think, the odds are against him ever playing, staying healthy every year, but I would not bet against him. He's just amazing. So what do you think about that real quick?
I cannot bet against Russell Wilson. Like, this dude, like, the Seahawks should never be competitive. I actually made a very specific bet with someone once, because I was like, the Seahawks are going to go 2-14 this year because everyone around Russell Wilson is terrible. Like, they have nothing except Russell Wilson. And lo and behold, I think they made the playoffs. It's just like, the dude just knows how to get wins, and just, if they could actually build a team around him, he might be like the greatest quarterback ever. He might win the Super Bowl every year. I mean, I'm exaggerating there, but you get the point. He just finds ways to win when he shouldn't. He has one of the most pure throws I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, he's amazing, and I wish they had a better supporting cast. I wish they protected him, and it kind of looked like they would have a good secondary, because the Quandre Diggs trade, they had Shaq Griffin, and then they traded for Quentin Dunbar, and now Quentin Dunbar may not play. Great trade by the Redskins, by the way. We knew the whole time the Redskins made an awesome trade. So yeah,
the D- I gave it was for definitely did a good job.
Exactly. My F was fantastic. So yeah, we saw it the whole time. We're pretty smart. All right, let's go to the AFC East. The Bills are 9, Dolphins 6.5, Patriots also 9, and the Jets are at 7. So who do you like here?
Okay, so I like the Bills a little bit. I think that they've really upgraded their team, but I'm not super sold on betting them, because every team in the AFC East has a terrible schedule. They have, like, I'm pretty sure the top 3 worst schedules in the league are the Patriots, Bills, and Jets, and then the Dolphins come in at like 7. They're all top 7 worst. So I don't like a lot of them, but I'm going to go very against what I've been taught to do here, and I'm going to go the Patriots under 9. And there are a few reasons for this. They've lost Tom Brady. That's one of them, obviously. But this is the point here. If any other team lost Tom Brady and went to Jarrett Stidham as quarterback and lost all of these other defensive players and had a terrible schedule. The Patriots are literally the worst schedule in the league. It's impeccably bad. They would not be favored to have 9 wins. The only reason they're favored to have that is Bill Belichick. And Bill Belichick is a phenomenal head coach, but I just don't see it with this roster. One issue they have is this is an very under the radar one for out of New England people, but they lost their offensive line coach, Dante Scarnecchia, to retirement. And he's one of the best O-line coaches in the league. Last time he retired back in 2014, the team won a Super Bowl the year after that. But then the following year in 2015, Brady was sacked 38 times, or actually 40 times, the second highest total of his career. And he just had a lot of trouble in the pocket. So I'm worried that the offensive line is going to regress a bit. They're not as deep as they once were, and they drafted a bunch of guys there. So I think that they're not confident in it either. Stidham has poor pocket presence, in my opinion. I think that was one of his issues in college, and we saw it at the Senior Bowl. He took a strip sack at one point. This is based off stuff from a couple of years ago, but you get the idea. There's just so much working against the Patriots, and I know you're not supposed to doubt Bill Belichick, but I just don't see this being a 10-win team, which is what you'd have to get to hit the over 9. I could see them pushing at 9-7, but unless Stidham is like unbelievable and like really exceeds expectations, I don't see this happening. I think that they're going to be kind of a middle of the road team, maybe a 7-9 season. So I'm going to bet the under on the Patriots, and it's probably one of my most confident picks, even though I'm going against Bill Belichick and everything I've known my whole life.
But Jacob, they were 11-5 with Matt Castle, right? So I think that might be one of the reasons why this number is so high, is because people remember Bill Belichick winning without Tom Brady, and he had that 3-1 start that one year when Brady was suspended for 4 games. But I think that 11-5 is kind of misleading, because the year before they were 16-0. So really, if you think about it, they went from 16-0 to 11-5. They lost 5 wins without Brady. Last year the Patriots were 12-4 with Brady. So if you subtract 5 wins, it's 7-9, and that means you win the under 9. So I agree with you. I think the under 9 is the right move, but I am terrified to get bet against Bill Belichick. And again, that's probably the reason why this number is so high. It's just the name brand. Like, people just see Patriots, and yeah, they know that Tom Brady is not there, but still have a great defense, and still have Bill Belichick, who when Tom Brady took over as the starter, when Drew Bledsoe went down in 2001, no one thought the Patriots were going to do well, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. Maybe Bill Belichick just knows that he has that Jarrett Stidham. Like, he didn't add a quarterback this offseason except for Brian Hoyer. So maybe Belichick knows something that we don't, and I imagine that he's I could see in week 10, like, the Patriots win to improve to 7-2, and Belichick's just laughing at everyone. And we feel stupid for betting the under 9, but still, I still think the under 9 is the right way to go. But again, I just don't know if we're going to if I'm going to bet this heavily, maybe a little bit. My favorite play in this division is the Dolphins under 6.5. And I was like kind of burnt. I didn't really lose, but like kind of burnt last year by the Dolphins not hitting the under 5. But they have to get to 7-9 for them to lose this. And I like the Dolphins of 2021 when Tua Tagovailoa is going to be able to play. I don't think he's going to be able to play this year. His agent Lee Steinberg said he doesn't like rookie quarterbacks playing, and he has Patrick Mahomes, so he knows what he's talking about. So I think he wants Tagovailoa to sit, which means Ryan Fitzpatrick plays behind a still bad offensive line, not as bad as it was last year, but still bad. They had no pass rush. Their secondary improved a lot, so that definitely helps them. But this Dolphins team still has so many holes. I know they're coached well with Brian Flores, but I don't know if I see them getting to 7-9. What do you think about them?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm all over the under there. I just think that people are kind of hung up on the fact that Flores led a terrible team to like a very surprising record for what they had. I know they were like 5-11 last year or whatever they finished at. Might have been worse than that, but they've added talent, but they're still not good, like you said. I think next year or the year after, like you said, 2021, I think they'll have a chance, because they'll have a chance to have filled, like, they need one more tackle for their line. unless they're playing Robert Hunt outside at right tackle. Then on defense, they really need to infuse more talent into that front seven before I'm willing to trust them, because their best player up there right now is probably Kyle Van Noy, who's come out for a great season with the Patriots. And then they have Christian Wilkins, who was a rookie last year. So you're looking at, it's kind of those two guys and then a bunch of other guys who are just guys right now. And if Tagovailoa can't play, Fitzpatrick could lead the team to some wins, but he's inevitably going to collapse at some point. That's why he can't be a full-time starter, but is a great backup. So I'm definitely on board the Dolphins under there, especially if it's at 6.5, because there's no way they're avoiding double-digit losses.
Yeah, I think they can go 5-11, 6-10. But yeah, 7-9 seems like a stretch to me. And your dad asked the important question: are you going to be the lead in Teen Wolf reboot? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely trending in that direction. The beard is getting more and more out of control with every passing day, but I can't bring myself to get rid of it at this point in time. We'll see how long this lasts, but I got to keep my options open, because when we eventually have our Halloween show, if I could do something with a full beard, dude, we're gonna figure it out.
Oh, so no Andy Reid this year. I'm looking forward to seeing what we have for Halloween.
It'll be something NFL related, I'm sure, but I'll figure it out when we get closer. Maybe we'll do Minshew if he has another good year, which I kind of doubt. But
yeah, that too. We'll get to him in a little bit. The AFC North, Ravens are 11.5, Bengals 5.5, Browns 8.5, Steelers 9.5. Gonna be honest here, I really don't like anything in this division. Do you?
I had the Steelers at 9 on Bovada. I like the over for them there, but I get why you might not like that, because Ben Roethlisberger coming back from a elbow injury kind of puts a cloud over that. But if I had to pick one, I'd pick the Steelers, just because I think their roster overall is so good. Like, take out the quarterback position, and they're one of the better rosters in the AFC. I think they have very few holes. There are questions about Roethlisberger, but if they were to sign like Cam Newton to be his backup, which they should very much try to do, I think that would quell a lot of concerns about the Steelers, going to the being a potential playoff team, because they have a really easy schedule. The AFC North, the Steelers and the Ravens have the easiest schedules. I don't trust the Ravens to get over 11.5, I think it was, because that's just too many wins to have, especially after they lost Marshall Yanda this offseason. So if I were to go with one, I'd go with the Steelers, because they have an easy schedule and should be better if Big Ben's back. But that injury concern there may lead me not to bet them. So I'm not big on any of these.
Yeah, if I had to go one, I agree. I think it would be Steelers over. My concern is Roethlisberger. Is he going to be 100%? He was throwing passes to Smith-Schuster and his other receivers, and Smith-Schuster sounded pretty pleased with Roethlisberger's arm, but can it hold up? I don't know. I mean, Roethlisberger he's been injured a lot over his career. I don't know if he can stay healthy. So that's my one concern. But if the Steelers added Cam Newton, I would definitely be over 9.5 for sure. Browns over 8.5, I would say, is a little intriguing, because I think that they had so much expectations last year. They didn't meet it, but they improved their offensive line. I think Odell Beckham could stay healthier, and Baker Mayfield should be able to rebound. But it's still the Browns, and I don't want to bet the over or 8.5. If it was 7.5, I think about it a lot more. 8.5 just seems a little dicey. And Andrew asks, where he says Fitzmagic is going to go over last second victory and go 7-9. You'll regret it again. Well, I don't regret it last year because it pushed. So I still have to submit the ticket to get the money back. But still, it was something that I thought was going to be locked. And then when that win happened, it didn't even occur to me that I lost or didn't win the over under. And then I would say a couple hours later, I was looking at the win totals I posted. And I saw Dolphins over 5, Dolphins under 5, and I was like, "Oh, I won that one." I'm like, "Wait, no, I didn't." I was so tilted, but I didn't lose. I didn't lose that bet, so I wasn't totally burned. So maybe I'll be burned this year. Maybe you're right. All right, are you gonna say something?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I got burnt by Fitz too. He ruined what almost was a perfect week by almost beating the Redskins, but he just scored a garbage touchdown that just kind of ruined my week, and maybe 13-1 instead of 14-0, but I can't complain. That's a great week anyway, but
Yeah, no complaints about 13-1. I remember losing that one as well in the Super Contest. So
Yeah,
yeah, it was pretty rough. I just rewatched that game recently. It was bizarre how
it
the
was.
Dolphins ended up winning that, or Dolphins ended up covering. All right, the AFC South, Texans 7.5, Colts 9.5, Jaguars 4.5, and Titans are 9. I like 2 here. Don't love them, but I like them. So do you like anyone here?
I had the Colts at 8.5 on Bovada, but that number is definitely going to change because the juice was minus 200 on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would take 9.5 on them. I like that a lot. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC. And their schedule starts off pretty nice. For their first 6 games, they played the Jaguars, Jets, Bengals, and Browns. So I think they could feasibly win all of those games, if not a good chunk of them. Their schedule gets a little harder down the stretch, but they're the best team in the AFC South, I think, by far. I think the Titans are overrated. I think the Texans are going to come crashing down. We're finally going to see the Bill O'Brien fueled collapse because they've hemorrhaged too much talent at this point. And the Colts have added Phillip Rivers, DeForest Buckner, Xavier Rhodes coming off a down year, but on a bounce back 1-year deal. Michael Pittman and Jonathan Taylor. Like, that's a ton of talent to what is already one of the better rosters in the AFC. So it would not surprise me at all to see them be one of the top 3, maybe even top 2 teams in the AFC if everything goes right. I think I've officially decided that I'm going to bet on Frank Reich as coach of the year, just because I think that the Colts might surprise people, overtake the Ravens and Chiefs. And even if people expect the Colts to be good, I don't know if they expect them to be that good.
I like that pick a lot. I think if I were to bet coach of the year, I think it would be Frank Reich or maybe Bruce Arians. If the Buccaneers do as well as I think they can. I like the Colts 9.5 over for sure. They have a great roster. Philip Rivers is actually like the one question mark they have because he is kind of old. But again, if the 2015 Peyton Manning can win a Super Bowl, I think this version of Rivers, who I think is better than that version of Peyton Manning, I think he can do that as well. And all he has to do is go 10-6 in a division that's not very good. The Texans don't have DeAndre Hopkins anymore. I think the Titans take a step backward, and the Jacksonville is the worst team in the NFL. So I think the Colts should be able to win 10 games. Like you said, they have an amazing roster, best offensive line in the NFL for my money, and a defense that's going to be a lot better with the guys they got, as you mentioned, Buckner and Rhodes. Let's say I still have like Darius Leonard. Darius Leonard, a linebacker. Leonard missed a few games last year, so if he stays healthy this year, he's going to be better. I like the Jaguars under 4.5 too. Like, I know that number is so low, but how does this team win 5 games? Like, they have no talent. They traded all their talent away. And they still have Ngakoue, but they're probably going to trade him. They still have Fournette. They're probably going to trade him. They have some young guys like Kayvon Chason, Josh Allen, DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault. Like, these guys I think will be good in the future, and Chark obviously is good now, but they just don't have enough right now. Like, and plus their offensive line is garbage. Gardner Minshew is, he's okay. He can run around and make a crazy pass here and there, but he's not going to win many games. So this Jaguar team has just like 2-14 written all over it. Having said that, they'll probably win in week 17 and screw me out of a win, but we'll see. I like the Jaguars under 4.5, Colts over 9.5.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Jaguars wholeheartedly. Like, the more I look at this team, the more I feel like this is just, we've got everything you want to see for a team that's going to hit the under, even at a low number. You got a lame duck coaching staff that almost was fired at the end of last year, but they decided to give them one more year. It's very similar to what happened in Washington last year with Jay Gruden, who is now ironically the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. But they don't have much talent. Doug Marrone's on the hot seat. That's a known fact. Leonard Fournette doesn't seem to want to be there. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. They tried to trade Yannick Ngakoue, but couldn't. They're probably going to trade both of those guys during the season, if not before. So they're rebuilding. They're going to try to get Trevor Lawrence maybe, unless Gardner Minshew shocks us. But yeah, no, I really don't see a reason to bet the Jaguars on over, unless you like lighting money on fire. That's the only thing I can think is that you like to watch that happen.
Yeah, so Andrew's like correlating this Jaguars team with the Dolphins last year. So a couple things there. The Dolphins were tanking, like they traded away some good players. They kind of lost on purpose. Like that 1-2 point conversion play against the Redskins was so shady how they ran it. It just seemed like that they were just trying to lose. And then Tua got injured, and they figured that they could win some games. But the second thing is, and I think this is way more important, is that Brian Flores turned out to be a much better coach than we ever could have imagined, and he got some of the young guys to play much better than anyone could have expected. So that's why the Dolphins at the end of the year, they improved a lot. Like, remember how bad they were in the first half of the season. They were getting blown out by everyone. Like, not even close. The Chargers went into Miami, blew them out. The Dolphins, they got blown out at Dallas. And Baltimore just made them look so ridiculous. So the Dolphins were miserable in the first half of the year, but they improved because Flores really got the young guys to play well. But Doug Marrone's not going to do that, and Marrone's on the hot seat, like you said. Like, and I think the Jaguars are going to fire Marrone, and like the players are not going to play hard for him because they know he's not going to be around. So I think that's a huge difference between these two teams. So yeah, that's why I think the Jaguars on the 4.5 is kind of safe. All right, last division, the AFC West: Broncos 7.5, Chiefs 11.5. Raiders 7.5, and Chargers 8. One really sticks out to me. I wonder if we're on the same page.
Why the hell are the Chargers at 8, and why are they above the Broncos? Like, I get why they might be above the Raiders, but it just doesn't make any sense. Like, they don't have a very difficult schedule, but they have Justin Herbert and Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, and it's likely that Herbert's going to sit for most of his first season to get acclimated to the league. We could see kind of a Drew Lock thing that we saw with the Broncos last year, where Lock was sitting from the first half of the season. Then he eventually replaced Flacco when he was healthy, and Flacco wasn't. I know that was a little different, but Lock wasn't going to start the season even if he was healthy. But with the Chargers, it's like they've added some talent. They have Brian Bulaga. They got Trey Turner, Chris Harris, Linval Joseph, Nick Vigil. But they just don't have an answer at quarterback. And it just seems like they're not going to be super competitive. I think, like, I was looking in at this team and I was like, all right, probably 7, maybe 6 would be the number of wins that I would expect them to get. So if we have them at 8, like, I just don't see them getting to 8 at all with these two at quarterback, even if the rest of their roster is strong. So I'm definitely going the under there. It just feels like the books are over-crediting the Chargers for what they were able to do 2 years ago. And they're kind of ignoring the fact that they don't have a quarterback. And, they lost Melvin Gordon, which they have Austin Eckler. But can Eckler really be that lead featured back? We're going to find out. But there are some serious questions about the offensive weaponry in Los Angeles.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The Chargers should be under, I think. And for all the reasons you mentioned, I figured Justin Herbert, if I were to guess, I think he's going to, I don't know what bye they have, but off the top of my head, but I think he's probably going to play like right after their bye, unless it's like super late. Like I think maybe like October around there, he's going to make his debut. Because Tyrod Taylor is just not the answer. And in fact, I think a story came out today or yesterday that said the Chargers were trying to sign Cam Newton, and then they decided against it, probably because they liked Herbert more, and they figured that, with Herbert on the roster, they didn't need to sign Newton. And I wonder if a team moved up ahead of them and drafted Herbert, and then they couldn't get Tua either, I wonder if they would have signed Cam Newton like the next day. So I think that says a lot about what they think about Tyrod Taylor. And they're right. I mean, Tyrod Taylor is a good backup, but he can't start and do well in the NFL. And the Chargers made some nice moves to their offensive line. They still have a big hole at tackle. They still have a big hole at one of their guard spots. And I don't trust center Mike Pouncey to stay healthy. So there's some concerns still on the offensive line, even though it'll be better. You mentioned Melvin Gordon being gone. So and just that, and plus, like, I don't know if we're going to have fans in the stands this year, but if we do, we know the Chargers are not going to have home support. So, like, they're not going to really have any home games still. So that, like, you take all that together, and plus add in the fact that they play in a division where they play the Chiefs twice, the improved Broncos twice, and I think the improved Raiders twice. I think the Chargers are the worst team in the division. And so I don't see them going 9-7, maybe 8-8 at the best, but I think they probably go 5-11, 6-10. So I like the Chargers under 8 a lot.
Yeah, it just seems like easy money. Like, I have a bet at Bovada that's under 7.5 plus 135, which is like mind blowing to me that that's available. And I get that, you might push at 8-8, but playing in that division, I'll take my chances with that. I do like the Broncos over 7.5 also. They have like a difficult schedule early in the season where they're playing the Titans, Steelers, Bucks, Jets, and Patriots out of the gate. But I think people forget how good the Broncos were at times last year. Like Drew Lock went 3-1 over his last 4 starts, I think. And early in the season, Vic Fangio got screwed out of multiple wins by either really shady officiating or just like really like last second heroics by the teams they were facing. So I think that I think Fangio is a little underrated. I think they've upgraded their team and their offense, getting Jerry Jeudy for Drew Lock as a weapon and trading for Jarrell Casey and AJ Bouye. Like those are 2 upgrades. I know Boye's contract is bigger than what he'll perform, but he's still solid replacement for Chris Harris. So I just think the Broncos look like a solid bet as well, because I could see them going 9-7 and making the playoffs. The only thing that could limit their ceiling is the Chiefs, I think.
Yeah, it's true. So yeah, what you said is right. I mean, in week 2, they got screwed out of a win because of a very shady roughing the passer penalty on the final drive by the Bears. 2 weeks later, the same thing happened. They got screwed again by roughing the passer penalty against the Jaguars. And then week 8, they had the win against the Colts, and then T.Y. Hilton made this amazing catch, or I don't know if it was Hilton, but like one of the Colts receivers made an amazing catch where like Jacoby Brissett was in a 2nd and 20, just launched it like a Hail Mary, and the guy came down across the sideline. I just watched that game yesterday, so it's kind of fresh in my mind. So there's 3 games they could have won last year. And overall, what was the record last year? I think it was it 7-9 last year?
I think it was. Yeah,
it was 7-9. So if you give them the 3 wins there, it's 10-6. So I like the Broncos' talent a lot. I wish they would have dressed tackle a little bit. That's a concern still. Their secondary I'm not in love with, but overall I think they have a good roster. So I kind of like the Broncos over 7.5 a little bit, but not as much as I love the Chargers on their 8. So
Chargers and Bears are probably my 2 favorites, just because those numbers just seem so far off.
I was just about to ask you, so like your favorites. Those 2 are your favorites. Do you love like would you have a 3rd favorite or a 4th?
If I had to pick a 3rd favorite, I probably would go with the Buccaneers as the other one, just because I just can't imagine Tom Brady not winning 10 games in a season. And 4th, oh God, I hate myself for doing this, but I think I would take the Patriots under, because literally everything except Bill Belichick points to them being a team with a losing record. Like, I guess my question would be this: if you took an average head coach and put them in charge of the Patriots roster this year, losing Tom Brady, losing what they've lost, and just having what they have, what would you like anticipate their record would be? Like roughly,
like 5-11.
Yeah. So the question becomes, when looking at the over/under, is Belichick worth 4 or 5 wins? And the answer to that could very well be yes. Like, I will not deny that that's possible, but I just don't think that he can overcome Jarrett Stidham in his entirety. But if I'm wrong about Stidham, I'll eat crow on it, and I'll do something. I'll wear some sort of Jarrett Stidham memorabilia on here if the Patriots go over, and we'll see what happens. But I think the Patriots will go under. So that is my 4th most confident right now.
Well, I mean, even if Stidham's good, like, who is he throwing to? Like Julian Edelman, who was, I think, I like Edelman. Like, how can I not? He's my 4th cousin, apparently. So I have to root for Edelman, but I think he's sort of a byproduct of Tom Brady. I think a little bit, at least a little bit. So I think he's going to be worse. And plus, I think he's like 34 now. So he's getting older. N'Keal Harry couldn't separate last year. Philip Dorsett is gone, I believe. So they have Mohamed Sanu, who I'm not a fan of Sanu. He can never separate. Damiere Byrd, Jacoby Myers. Maybe Jacoby Myers makes a nice leap in year 2. Probably not. So who's Stidham throwing to? And will Sony Michel bounce back? I do like the Patriots offensive line, so that Stidham will be protected. and they have good players on defense. But again, their defense is getting older. Like the McCourty brothers are entering their mid-30s. Dante Hightower is getting older. I think this is his 8th or 9th year. Patrick Chung is getting older. They still have Stephon Gilmore, who's still in his prime, but like they have their defense is getting older. So I don't know if they're going to be as good as they were last year. Like maybe like a slight step back, but that means a lot when you don't have Tom Brady to make up for it. So I do agree with you that I think the Patriots under 9 is the right side, and that number probably should be like 7.5. Like I think that will be like a safe number where I would kind of be hesitant to bet the under, but. So I do agree with you. My top 4, I'm right there with you on the Buccaneers and Bears. I love the Buccaneers over 9.5, the Bears under 8, and the Giants over 6. Those are my top 3. If I had to do a 4th one I love the most, it would be Chargers under 8. So Giants over, Bears under, Buccaneers over, Chargers under.
Yeah, I definitely like the Giants over too. I kind of forgot about that because we talked about it first, and my brain only remembers every like 20 minutes of my life. But you could definitely convince me to do that instead of the Patriots one. But I kind of feel like I have to have some sort of strong opinion on the Patriots this year. So we'll see what happens. But I think those top 5 overall, your top 4 specifically, are definitely really good ones to bet on.
Yeah, well, hopefully at least 3 of them hit, and I won't be complaining about what happened last year, like with the Dolphins. And the Jaguars probably are like my fifth favorite, so I'm going to be betting pretty heavily on them. So hopefully Minshew magic doesn't happen and it gets screwed again. But so those are our NFL season win totals. If there's anything that changes, like a major injury, we'll address it later in the summer. But right now, it feels like those are safe to lock in. And like, I don't know if I'm going to Vegas this summer with everything going on, but like I will probably be placing these bets somewhat soon. I think probably locking in the Bears under 8 very, very soon in the near future, because I think that number is going to move. And I actually think the Buccaneers could move as well. And so I think the 4 I mentioned, I will definitely lock in soon. I'm going to bet them soon. The other ones I liked but didn't love, I think I might wait to get a better number. So that's how I'm going to approach it.
Yeah, I'll probably do the same thing. I'll lock in the 4 that I just mentioned, and probably lock in the Giants one as well. And I'm only locking in the Patriots one because I hate myself and love to feel pain when Bill Belichick wins. But in reality, it does well. It protects me. So if the Patriots have a bad year, I won't be too upset. So there we go.
There you go. Yeah, hedge against yourself a little bit. All right. That's it for this episode. If you if you're watching on YouTube, please hit subscribe. That'll mean a lot. Or share this link to someone who likes football. Jacob, anything to plug?
I've got some scouting reports on some of the Redskins prospects that they drafted this year coming out. When I finish those, I don't know. Hopefully at some point this week, those will be done. And if you want to follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker, tweet at me with any fantasy football questions, betting questions. Always down to talk football. So, feel free to hit me up there, and we'll have some fun. It's the NFL off season, but we really never sleep on anything NFL related.
Yeah, and you actually, real quick, you mentioned in an article about why you think Chase Young is not the most important rookie for the Redskins. Sadiq Charles for the left tackle, which we probably should have mentioned for the Redskins on there. So maybe that's another reason to bet the Redskins on there. But yeah, that was definitely cool. Do you want to talk about that like briefly?
Yeah, I can. So basically, my hypothesis on this is the Redskins, they have a really strong defensive line and pass rush. So adding Chase Young to that is absolutely great, and long term is going to be a huge impact player. But for this season, the most important aspect of their success in terms of having a quality rookie performer is how Sadiq Charles performs, because they have practically nothing at left tackle right now after trading Trent Williams. You've got Charles is going to battle Cornelius Lucas, who was the Bears' swing tackle last year, most likely to start at left tackle. So if Charles doesn't play up to par or doesn't look like an NFL-ready left tackle prospect, Dwayne Haskins is going to be under a lot of pressure. And that's not a fault of Charles. He's a 4th-round pick. But, if he comes in, steps up, plays really, really well, and looks great in the offseason and preseason, however much of that we have, then that could be kind of a sign of, oh, maybe they'll be a little bit better. But if Charles has a bad year and the Redskins are picking early, but they like what they saw out of Haskins, they may be in position to draft Penei Sewell from Oregon to play left tackle. Charles can move inside to guard, kick to right tackle. So Charles is definitely a guy to watch. And, Chase Young's going to get the name recognition, but keep an eye on Sadiq Charles. This whole offseason is going to be super important for the Redskins.
Yeah, that's definitely true. It's really going to affect their 2021 draft plans, as you said. So yeah, check that out at Rigo's Rag. I'm at walterfootball.com. We're going to have season previews, I think, starting Wednesday after Memorial Day. We'll see. So I think that'll be fun to post, and also look out for an announcement that I think we're going to discuss after this episode's over. So I'm not totally sure about it, but I think it's going to be pretty cool, which is going to have to do with this podcast in the summer. So yeah, I'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you then.
All right. Bye.
Bye.